From family outcast to their last hope, my sister's success led to my abandonment. Now she's pleading for help as their business collapses. Hey Reddit, I'm a 32-year-old woman and never thought I'd spill the beans about my life online, but here we are. Everything kind of fell apart for me recently, in ways I couldn't imagine. My parents kicked me out, mainly because I managed to pay for my MBA without their help, and my 36-year-old sister, the family darling, couldn't handle it. There's a lot to unpack, and I guess I'm looking for advice or maybe just some virtual hugs. Let me break down the family scene for you. I've always been the underdog, never quite fitting in. It was clear from day one that my sister was the favorite. Growing up just outside Chicago, if she got an A, my parents would throw a mini parade. If I got an A, it was more like, cool, what's for dinner? You get the vibe. Sarah, my sister, was like the star of the show. She excelled at everything with no effort, was prettier and more outgoing. School plays, she was always the lead. Team captain? Of course. Straight A's? Naturally. I was the awkward, nerdy kid who preferred coding in my room to being in the spotlight. My parents adored Sarah like she was a prodigy. When she got into a fancy business school, they paid for everything: tuition, trendy clothes, her swanky apartment, and even her spring break trips to Cancun. They couldn't stop bragging about her. Meanwhile, I kept my head down, figuring I'd have to go it alone. Despite taking out loans and juggling part-time jobs, I graduated with honors in computer science. Did my parents celebrate? Nope. It was more like, oh, that's nice, but have you seen Sarah's graduation photos? Isn't she gorgeous? Fast forward to now, and I've been working as a project manager at a digital company. It's alright, but I crave more. I want to start my own business someday, climb the corporate ladder, or break into top management. So, I decided to apply for an MBA at a reputable university. Problem? The tuition is sky high, in the six figures. Hoping my parents would chip in like they did for Sarah, I brought it up after a family dinner. But as usual, the conversation revolved around Sarah's latest triumph. I explained my plan and how the MBA would boost my career, and then casually mentioned the steep tuition. Their reactions? Like I'd asked them to sell a kidney. They flat out refused to pay or even co-sign a loan for me. Sure, MBAs cost a ton, but refusing to co-sign? That stung. I just needed help to avoid drowning in debt, not a free ride. Their excuse? We already paid for Sarah's education, now we need to think about our future, they said. Plus, they wanted to invest in the family restaurant. Seriously? You paid for Sarah's whole education, but can't even co-sign for me? I tried to stay calm and asked about it. Well, honey, Sarah's education was an investment for the family business, my mom said. Your MBA is just for you, isn't it? Just for me? Like I'm not family? Like they don't care about my success? I was stunned. They seemed to put roadblocks in my way but had no issue splurging on Sarah. I couldn't miss this opportunity, so I turned to Aunt Margaret. Now, Aunt Margaret, my dad's older sister, is nothing like my parents. She's way more successful and works as a neurosurgeon. She's always been kind to me and super down to earth. There was always this awkward vibe between her and my parents at family gatherings. They'd be polite but clearly resented her success. My dad especially hated feeling upstaged by her. I remember overhearing fights where he accused her of being arrogant. Initially, I didn't want to drag her into this, but I was desperate. So, one day I reached out to see if she could help. I was hoping someone could back me up with the tuition fees I needed, and I explained everything to Aunt Margaret, like how my parents wouldn't help, and how much this MBA means to me. Without even a second thought, Aunt Margaret was all in. She was like, of course, I'll help. Why didn't you just talk to me sooner? I'd love to support your future. I've always thought you had so much potential. I was super grateful, but also kind of scared my dad would find out. He would totally flip if he knew I went behind his back to ask his sister for money. Trying to keep it under wraps, I begged Aunt Margaret, who totally got it, understanding the whole complicated family drama. It all went smoothly for a while, my tuition was sorted, and I was gearing up to start my MBA. I was on cloud 9, feeling both excited and nervous about what was next. Then Sarah just had to come and mess it all up. I'm still clueless about how she figured out I asked Aunt Margaret for help. Maybe she was snooping through my emails or overheard me or something, but she found out. Being the family star she is, she couldn't just let it go unnoticed. Nope, she turned it into a whole big drama. I remember coming home after a long day at work, all excited to talk about my MBA orientation coming up, but as soon as I walked in, I knew something was off. The place was too quiet, and the tension was like a heavy cloud. My stomach dropped when I saw the living room. Everything I owned, books, clothes, even my bedding, was packed in boxes, like I was being erased from the house. Sarah stood to the side with this annoying smug look, while my parents sat on the couch looking both disappointed and furious. It felt like I walked into a twisted intervention. Dad didn't waste any time and threw a bunch of papers at me, demanding an explanation. I grabbed them, my hands shaking, not getting what was happening. It hit me that Sarah had really lost it. She'd made up fake emails between Aunt Margaret and me, making it seem like I was betraying the family. The emails suggested I'd revealed family restaurant secrets to Aunt Margaret in exchange for tuition money, recipes, supplier info, even financial stuff. I didn't have access to any of that, but Sarah did. I was floored. She must have hacked my laptop, tampered with emails, photoshopped them or something, making me look like the bad guy. I was in shock. "This isn't true," I stammered. "These emails are fake. I would never do this." But my parents weren't listening. Mom was crying, and Dad was red with anger. He said, "We trusted you, and you betrayed us." They believed Sarah, of course. They always did. It felt like my years of being a good daughter, staying out of trouble, working hard, just didn't matter. Dad told me coldly to leave, saying, "We won't have a traitor in this house." I tried to explain about the MBA and how Aunt Margaret was just helping, just like they helped Sarah. They didn't care. I didn't want to burden Aunt Margaret either, especially since she'd already offered to cover my tuition. But in their eyes, I was a traitor, so they wouldn't even talk to me. Sarah just stood there the whole time, her smug smile never leaving her face. Her eyes screamed louder than words, she'd won. Her competitor, as she always saw me, was finally gone. And that was it. I left with only a few boxes and the clothes on my back. While loading my car, I saw neighbors peeking from their windows, probably curious about the drama. I felt completely alone, betrayed, and embarrassed. Once in my car, I broke down and called Aunt Margaret, sobbing so hard I could barely speak. Without any questions, she told me to come over immediately. I don't know how I would have gotten through without her. Now, I'm living at Aunt Margaret's place. She offered me a place to stay and promised she'd still support me with my MBA. She's been amazing, but I'll never forget that night, with Sarah standing there, looking so smug. So there I was, walking into my house only to find my parents looking at me like I was some kind of criminal. Meanwhile, Sarah had this smug look on her face, knowing she had won whatever messed up game she was playing. All my stuff was packed up, and I just stood there, not really sure what to do next. Part of me wants to clear my name and prove Sarah was lying. I'm pretty sure I could find proof that those emails were forged if I looked hard enough. But another part of me just wants to cut ties with everyone who's so quick to think the worst of me. I mean, why bother fighting for people who'd abandon me like that? And then there's the betrayal to wrap my head around. My own family turned their backs on me, and now I have no clue how to move forward. I'm supposed to start my MBA in a few weeks, and instead of being excited, I'm just caught up in all this emotional chaos. I keep replaying everything, wondering if I missed any signs that Sarah was this sneaky or that my parents were this ready to dump me. After all this, how am I supposed to trust anyone again? Aunt Margaret's been telling me to focus on the opportunities my MBA could bring, even though it's hard to see past all the hurt and anger right now. She says success is the best revenge, but man, it's tough. I could really use some advice. How do I rebuild my life knowing my own sister would go to such lengths to hurt me? And when I feel so messed up inside, how do I even start connecting with the people in my MBA program? Fast forward 3 years, yeah, it's been that long since my family threw me out. I wanted to update everyone on how things turned out. I wrapped up my MBA, which ended up being a huge game changer for me. I was an emotional wreck starting out, but I managed to channel all that energy into my studies. I graduated at the top of my class, but it wasn't exactly a cakewalk. I'm no longer that girl who felt less than others. Now I'm someone who's confident and speaks up about her skills. After graduating, I landed a job at a top consulting firm. I love it, even though it's demanding. It's amazing to finally be in a place where my hard work and talents are truly appreciated, and I'm not living in anyone's shadow anymore. Aunt Margaret's been my anchor through all this, turning into the family I never really had. Our weekly dinners are a blast where we chat about everything, from her coolest medical case to my latest work project. She's taught me so much about standing up for myself and recognizing my own worth. As for Sarah and my parents, there have been zero communications, no emails, no texts, nothing. At first, it hurt, but over time I realized their absence allowed me to grow in ways I couldn't have with them around. I've managed to build a life I'm proud of, free of constant approval seeking and comparisons. But life loves throwing curveballs. Last Saturday, just when I thought I had it all figured out, who shows up at my door but Sarah? I barely recognized her without her usual air of superiority and fancy clothes. She was in a basic sweater and worn-out jeans, with tired eyes and messy hair. She looked really down. "Hey," she said softly, "can we talk?" I was curious, even though part of me wanted to slam the door in her face. Instead, I let her in. She sat on my couch, squirming uncomfortably, and finally blurted out, "I need your help. Turns out, the family business is in serious trouble, like bankruptcy-level trouble. My parents' big expansion failed, leaving them drowning in debt." Sarah said, "Dad's talking about filing for bankruptcy," and her voice cracked. "Mom's a mess, and I don't know what to do." As she talked, I felt a mix of emotions. There was a twisted sense of satisfaction. Wasn't this karma for how they treated me? But I also felt something close to pity, though not quite. I asked, "Why are you telling me this? What do you expect me to do?" Sarah's eyes were filled with desperation as she looked at me and said, "You're doing great with your new job and MBA. I was hoping you could give some advice or..." I knew what she was really asking for: money. The golden child needing a bailout from the black sheep. The irony wasn't lost on me. I kept my voice calm and said, "Let me get this straight, after everything." So, after 3 years of total radio silence, Sarah suddenly pops up asking for help. I could see she felt kinda embarrassed, admitting, "Yeah, I know I messed up." She went on about how she'd been jealous because I always seemed so capable and smart, and how she really lost it when she found out Aunt Margaret was helping me. She apologized, but honestly, after 3 years, just saying sorry felt pretty weak. I told her, "Sorry doesn't cut it, Sarah. You have no clue what your actions put me through." She looked like she was about to cry but tried to play the family card, saying, "We're still family, right? Family's supposed to have each other's backs. Just think about it, please." For me, that word family hit hard. After everything that's happened, are we really still family? I let Sarah know I needed time to think things over. She gave me her number with a kind of sad look and left. And now here I am, trying to figure out what to do next. I've worked hard to build this new life, free from all the family drama, constant comparisons, and feeling like I never measured up. Do I really want to get pulled back into all that mess? But then there's this small part of me that still cares. When I think about how my parents hit rock bottom, I don't quite feel sorry for them, but I'm not indifferent either. Part of me wants to prove to them what they lost by pushing me away and show I'm not the failure they thought. But is that worth it? After the way they treated me, do I owe them anything? Would my help even change anything, or would I always be the other daughter? I'm torn, and I'm hoping someone out there might offer some clarity. Should I protect myself and let my family handle their own mess, or should I reach out and risk getting hurt again? I've been mulling it over for days, but I'm still stuck. Part of me wants to help them out and maybe reset our relationship on better terms. But another part of me is screaming to stay away because they've hurt me so deeply before. Aunt Margaret, ever the voice of reason, told me she'd support me no matter what but warned me not to sacrifice myself to help them. She said, "Don't set yourself on fire to keep them warm." I've been a bit distracted at work, and my coworkers have picked up on it. While some have been understanding, I haven't spilled all the details. One of them reminded me that sometimes keeping work and personal life separate is the most professional way to go, and that advice has stuck with me. My business courses on crisis management and turnarounds keep popping into my head too, making me think I could whip up a plan to help them out, but should I really be the one to do it? Plus, Sarah's apology, is it genuine or just another tactic? Could I trust it? I'm also worried about my finances. Things are good now, but I'm not exactly rolling in money, and helping them could mess up my future goals. Whatever I decide, it's gonna be on my terms this time. I've changed from that scared, insecure girl into a strong woman who knows her worth. So, what do you think? Should I put myself first and let my family handle the fallout, or do I step in to help? I could really use some outside perspective here. Update 2, hey, Reddit, it's me again. Some wild stuff has gone down since I last updated. Remember my dilemma about helping my family with their restaurant issues? Well, the universe threw me another curveball. A week after Sarah's visit, my parents showed up at my work, the office. They somehow found out where I work and just appeared in the lobby. Talk about a shocker. My assistant buzzed me during a meeting to tell me 2 people wanted to see me, and my heart nearly stopped when she said who they were. Feeling like I was walking into something major, I left the meeting and headed to the lobby. There they were, looking older and more worn out than I remembered. Dad's shoulders were slumped in a way I'd never seen, and Mom's hair had turned completely gray. The weight of 3 years of silence hung between us as we stared at each other until Dad finally broke the silence, saying, "We need So there I was, talking in this rough but strangely small voice. I decided to take them to the coffee shop nearby because, honestly, having this chat at work was the last thing I wanted. As we sat down with our drinks, an awkward silence just kind of hung over us. I wasn't planning on making this easy for them, so I just waited for them to start talking. Mom was the first one to crack and, with a shaky voice, she said, "We were wrong. We never should have kicked you out, we should have listened to you. We're really sorry." For 3 years, I had imagined this moment happening over and over. But now that it was real, I felt nothing, just this empty void. No relief, no happiness, not even anger. Then Dad chimed in, suggesting, "You should come back home. We can navigate this rough patch together as a family again." I took a sip of my coffee, buying myself a moment, and then asked, "Why now after 3 years of silence?" They exchanged glances, and I realized there was more to this story. As they began explaining, it became clear just how desperate they were. The restaurant was not just struggling financially, it was a complete disaster. They had overextended and were cutting corners, breaking all kinds of rules to keep it running, including dodging taxes, ignoring health codes, and dealing with shady suppliers. They were on the brink of bankruptcy, and potential criminal charges loomed. Dad, in almost a whisper, said they needed my help, my business savvy and contacts could save them. I was stunned. Here were my parents, who had cast me aside based on lies and always considered me second-rate, now seeing me as their last hope. "Let me get this straight," I said, trying to keep my cool. "You kicked me out, believed the worst about me without any proof, ignored me for 3 years, and now you want me to rescue you from your illegal mess?" Mom tried to take my hand across the table, but I pulled away. With tears in her eyes, she said, "We know we don't deserve your help, but we're family. We're lost and don't know what to do, so please help." That word, family, she used it again. But as I looked at them, I realized they weren't my family anymore. Aunt Margaret has been my rock, always supporting me. My real family was made up of friends and colleagues who valued me for who I truly am. I took a deep breath and, surprisingly calm, said, "I'm sorry, but I can't help you. It's not just about money. You're asking me to risk everything I've worked for, my job, my values, everything. I can't do it." Their shocked faces were almost laughable. They clearly didn't expect a no from me. Dad's face turned red with anger. "After all we've done for you," I cut him off, "what exactly did you do for me? You mean how you didn't support my education while paying for Sarah's? Or how you always pushed me aside for her?" Now Mom was openly crying and pleaded, "Please, sweetheart, we'll lose everything." A little guilt crept in, but then I remembered the last 3 years, the struggles, the pain, and the achievements I managed on my own. Standing up, I said, "I'm sorry you're in this mess, but you brought it upon yourselves. I can't save you." As I turned to leave, Dad shouted, "Is that what you want, to see us ruined?" I paused and looked back at them. "What I want," I said, "is for you to own up to your actions and realize what you threw away when you walked me out. But mostly, I want to be free of your drama and manipulation." With that, I left them there in the coffee shop. It felt like this huge weight had finally been lifted as I stepped outside. I had made a choice for myself, set my boundaries, and faced them down. But the story didn't end there. I spent a lot of time thinking about that confrontation and realized just walking away wasn't enough. My parents were breaking the law, and if they continued, more people could get hurt. So I made a tough call. I reported what I knew about the shady stuff going on at their restaurant to the authorities, including the police, IRS, and health department. It was the right thing to do, but it was far from easy. The fallout was immediate and intense. My sister Sarah called me in tears, accusing me of destroying the family. My parents sent messages alternating between begging for help and threatening legal action. But I stayed firm, telling the authorities what I knew and making it clear I had no part in any of the illegal stuff. Aunt Margaret was there for me through those tough weeks, reminding me I was doing the right thing. The investigation is still ongoing, but the air has. So, apparently, things got shut down while they're doing a big audit. Sarah and my parents are in deep trouble legally. It's not a fun outcome, but honestly, it's fair. As for me, I'm actually doing pretty great. There's this huge sense of closure now that all those toxic family vibes that were holding me back are finally over. My career's booming, and I've even been considered for a promotion. My workplace feels like a real home, thanks to my awesome coworkers who have had my back through all this. I've grown super close to Aunt Margaret lately. We're planning a little getaway once the dust settles, something fun to look forward to after all this stress. Sure, it's been tough at times, and I sometimes doubt if I made the right call. But then I think about all the manipulation and favoritism from back in the day, and I know I did the right thing. Just 3 years ago, I felt lost and alone after being kicked out. Now, I've got my independence, a successful career, great people around me, and I'm finally free from my family's negative impact. While some might dream of a happy family reunion, this is my story, and I'm proud of how far I've come. If you're dealing with toxic relatives or hard decisions, remember you deserve to prioritize your well-being and set boundaries. Sometimes, the family you choose is more important than the one you're born into. A big thank you to everyone on Reddit for supporting me. Your advice has been invaluable. Here's to new beginnings and finding our own happiness. Thanks for sticking around. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep up with more real-life stories.